There was a lot of praying,
Mm-hmm.
but this time there was no threat of losing my life.
Welcome to Heart with Anna. I am Anna Jaworski and the host of your program. Today's show is celebrating 60 years with a complex heart, and our guest is Kimberly Russell. We'll start today's program by learning a bit about Kimberly and how she's been a pioneer in the world of congenital heart defects. In the second segment, we're going to talk about a special contest that you can take part in. And in the final segment, we'll find out what Kimberly is doing now and what advice she has for other aging heart warriors. Kimberly was born in 1960 as a blue baby. She had Blalock-Taussig shunts in 1960 and 1965 and a central shunt with a bidirectional glen in 1992. She was 32 years old before she had any heart problems. As a speaker at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Kimberly realized that as an adult with a complex congenital heart defect, or CHD, her story could bring hope to patients and families. At her grandmother's behest, she wrote a book entitled In a Heartbeat, A Baby's Heart, A Surgeon's Hands, A Life of Miracles. She also started a group for Georgia adults with congenital heart defects, or CHDs. She served on the Adult Congenital Heart Association, or ACHA, Board of Directors, and was an ACHA ambassador in Atlanta, volunteering at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Welcome to Heart with Anna, Kimberly.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Let's talk about you being born as a blue baby. What does that mean? What was your heart defect? And tell us about your first surgeries.
Way back in those days, back in the 1960s, blue babies were being born and dying. Blue babies were born with depleted oxygen levels to the point that they were even dark purple. The Blalock shunt was the only surgery available for that. And they just saw blue babies, so they did the surgery. Later in life, though, my complete title is double inlet left ventricle with pulmonary atresia and chronic cyanosis, meaning that my right ventricle may or may not be present, but either way, it's not involved in pumping. It doesn't do anything.
Wow.
So the doctors thought I wouldn't live to be a month old, sent me home. And at 3 months old, I was dark purple, but I had to have the surgery. And at a 10% possible living, my parents were just ecstatic when I came out alive and pink.
Mm-hmm. So they only gave you a 10% chance of survival with that first surgery?
It's the first one, yes, because they've only been doing it for 6 years.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? I mean, you really are a pioneer. You really were at the forefront of modern medicine as far as congenital heart disease.
Yes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that later because people, including the doctors, who would always talk directly to me, my mom's listening, but they were really, wanted me to be involved. And they would always shake their head and say, Kim, you're a true pioneer. And I knew what pioneer meant, but I had no idea until several years ago what that really meant.
Yeah.
And that, honestly, that my condition could be fatal.
Really?
So I grew up, and when I got to be 4, I was having more trouble with fatigue and all. And I started turning blue again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to a point where I would have to walk 2 steps, squat, stand up 2 more steps. And the squatting, I learned, was a way to pump all of your blood up to your pulmonary system so that you would get more oxygen out to your body.
Yeah. I remember reading about this. People would call them TET spells because people with tetralogy of Fallot would often do that as well. So when you said you were a blue baby, I was thinking you were going to tell me you were a tetralogy of Fallot baby. Yeah. I can't believe you had double inlet left ventricle. That is really amazing. So here you are, you're almost 5. They're seeing that this little Blalock-Taussig shunt that they put in is not going to be sufficient. So they decided to do another one.
Yes.
Do you remember that, Kimberly? Were you old enough to remember?
I remember the days leading up to my surgery, and I remember that people would stop me and ask, have you been eating purple popsicles?
Oh, my goodness.
Or, are you okay? And my mom would always explain to them. So I was very purple.
Wow.
But the surgery was delayed as long as possible because this time they only gave me a 50% chance of living.
But that was so much higher than what they gave you the first time.
Yes.
That must have been almost a little bit of a relief that they seemed more confident that this time that would work. And to be fair, they had been doing the surgery for another 5 years, so they had a little bit more experience with it. Do you remember being in a hospital, Kimberly?
I do. But the only thing I remember for that surgery was that my pastor would come and he would always bring me, which people don't know what this is now, but the little white waxed paper, and you would pencil it in and a picture would show up.
Oh my goodness. I remember that. I was born in 1963, so I'm of your generation, and I remember those. Yes.
They were so fun.
They were fun.
And then the other thing I remember is that I played with a little boy who had lost his arm to a ringer washer.
Oh, wow.
And there was a little girl who sat in a high chair and made no noise ever. And if somebody approached her, generally a male, tears would just fall, but she would not make a noise. And I've always wondered what happened to her.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So you were in a children's hospital, it sounds like, and you were in a ward that had children with all kinds of problems. Nowadays, children like you would be in a ward just with other heart patients, but that wasn't the case when you were a little girl. No, it wasn't, just because we were few and far between, because some could have surgery, but still the majority of heart patients pass away at a young age. Right. Now, how aware were you of your heart condition, Kimberly? I mean, you had to have had a pretty impressive scar on your chest, right?
I was aware because my doctors always talked to me. There was not a time where I didn't know about it. And besides that, I couldn't run. I couldn't ride a bicycle. Just the higher exertion things that children do. And I don't know if you remember from my book, I had my surgery when I was 4, and I had missed out on a lot of things that 3-year-olds do because I just couldn't function. So my mom, when I got home, let me do anything. Get out all my toys, pull pots and pans out. I was having a heyday. And then one day she heard a noise coming from my brother's bedroom, and she went in there and found me swinging on the curtains.
Oh my gosh.
That was the end of my fun. The doctor had told her she could spank me, just set me on the couch until I'm pink. Yeah.
I love it. Well, you said that you were 32 years old before you really started having heart problems. Of course, you don't remember those early heart problems like your mama does.
Right.
Tell me what happened when you were 32.
So at the time, I was working as a division manager for the country's best yogurt. And slowly, I was just having trouble keeping up, and shortness of breath and fatigue, to the point that I had trouble traveling. And it got to the point where I had to ride in a wheelchair for long distances. My husband's like, maybe we should go visit the cardiologist. At that time, I came to Atlanta for my congenital care. And I went in, and the doctor looked at me. He goes, "Are you okay?" "Oh, I'm fine." He said, "Kim, you're in a wheelchair." "Oh, I know, but just for long distances." And he's like, "No, we need to figure out how to help you. You need another surgery."
Texas Heart Institute were offering us a mechanical heart, and he said, "No, Dad, I've had enough. Give it to someone who's worthy."
My father promised me a golden dress to twirl in. He held my hand and asked me where I wanted to go.
Whatever strife or conflict that we experienced in our long career together was always healed by humor.
Heart to Heart with Michael. Please join us every Thursday at noon Eastern as we talk with people from around the world who have experienced those most difficult moments.
This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The opinions expressed in the podcast are not those of Hearts Unite the Globe, but of the hosts and guests, and are intended to spark discussion about issues pertaining to congenital heart disease or bereavement.
You are listening to Heart with Anna. If you have a question or comment that you would like addressed on our show, please send an email to Anna Jaworski at anna@hearttoheartwithanna.com. That's anna@hearttoheartwithanna.com. Now, back to Heart with Anna.
So right before the break, Kimberly, you were saying that you came in a wheelchair and your doctor said, we're going to have to do something. What did he decide needed to be done?
At that time, there was not a true adult congenital heart clinic in Atlanta. At that time, there was a doctor. It's actually the doctor that brought the heart cath to Emory. He sat down with me and told me what he thought was going on and sent me up to Mayo Clinic to have them look at me. Now, I'm going to go back 16 years because there's a little bit interesting information before we get there. When I was 16, I was doing so well that Children's Healthcare Atlanta sent me over to Emory to have them check me out because there was no way I could have what I have and be doing so well. I mean, I had 2 jobs. I was a senior in high school, all that. So Emory's like, well, I don't find anything wrong. Maybe we need to send her to Mayo. And so I went to Mayo, and they said there's nothing wrong. As long as nothing's broke, we won't fix it. So that was pretty cool. Then Mayo told me it was time for my 3rd surgery. And originally they told me I was going to take down my 2 Blaylock shunts and put in a central shunt. And I was very nervous about that because I'd been living on those 2 shunts for so long.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard.
Yeah.
And so the doctor came and visited me the night before and he goes, okay, now we're going to do a central shunt and we're going to do a bidirectional Glenn. Normally, these are 2 separate surgeries. But I've looked at your anatomy, and I feel very confident that I can do them both at one time.
Wow.
Of course, I cried again because now they're switching what they're going to do.
Yeah, at the last minute.
Yeah, I only had 12 hours to cry.
Had you ever heard of a bidirectional Glenn before that?
I had not.
So that makes it kind of scary.
It is, because I didn't know what that was. But if he was confident, he's at Mayo Clinic, got to be good, right?
Right. At least you knew you were in excellent hands.
Yes. And my cardiologist there is very specific when she picks surgeons and doctors from other departments. She said, I feel very confident that if he thinks he can do it, it'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not she really thought that, I'm not sure, but it really brought me comfort. I was like, okay.
I have a feeling for that time, she did feel as confident as she could. And you had done so well for so long, you were probably the ideal patient.
It was different.
Mm-hmm. You went in knowing that now you're going to have 2 different procedures. What happened?
There was a lot of praying.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, there was no threat of losing my life.
They didn't talk about your mortality.
So I'll have to tell you, I did not even realize that was a possibility until I was like, I'm going to say 22 to 25, riding in the car with my mother and my family. And my dad was talking about his uncle that had all these heart problems. And my mom turned around and looked at me and said, Kim, you're probably going to outlive all of them. Got to be careful what you say, because that really kind of hit me hard. I had never thought about that.
Wow.
it did not bother me. It didn't weigh me down, and I don't drag it with me, but it was just kind of a startling realization.
Mm-hmm. So you had your procedure.
Yes.
How did it go?
It went well. He was able to do both. I was in the hospital, I believe, less than a week.
Wow.
And I had traveled by car from Michigan to Minnesota, which is about 750 miles. I had to travel back with this scar. And that was a little rough. You got your pillow, but
the road wasn't quite as smooth as you would wish it to be. I'm sure you felt every pothole, didn't you?
I did.
Oh, my goodness. Now, what time of year was this?
It was December 1st was my surgery. 1992.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's a long car trip to take after you've just had open heart surgery.
It was, but I got home and there were things I would have liked to do at Christmas, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of fun to be on the other end. People came to carol. People brought baskets of food and fruits. Usually I'm the one doing that, and it made me realize how thankful those people are that you do that for them.
Wow. So it was a chance for people to give back to you.
Yeah.
And it made you appreciate being on the receiving end for a change.
Yes.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
well, so here we are, and you're about to be 60.
I am.
That is just remarkable. Do you know many other heart warriors who are the same age as you?
I know a couple that are in their 30s. I know a single ventricle, which is not exactly what I have, and she is, I think, 63. But other than, I don't. And I was told a few years back, I don't know if it's true, but like I'm one of 100 in the United States.
It's just amazing to me. Yeah. So now you've decided to have this special contest. Tell us about the contest and why we're celebrating this milestone.
Okay, I was talking to you a minute ago about giving back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go back a little bit to when I wrote my book. My book gave me opportunity to travel up and down the East Coast at hospitals speaking to different groups. I started my Atlanta group, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I have met so many generous people and people that have touched my life that I wanted to do something for them on my birthday. And it took me forever, actually until last week, to decide that I wanted to do this contest. I have a room full of products.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to have a giveaway. You can go to Facebook. It is Kim''S space heartbeat. If you go to my Facebook page and like it, you'll get all the posts. Every day there's a contest for different things. And sometimes it's for 3 people. Sometimes it's for 5. Sometimes it's for 1.
And I'll put a link in the show notes to your Facebook page to make it easier for people to get there, Kim. Sometimes people are exercising while they're listening to the podcast, and this way they can just read the show notes and click right over there. So all they have to do is like your Facebook page, and it automatically enters them into the contest. I thought I saw one where they have to answer questions.
If you like my page, Kim's Heartbeat, the contest and announcements will show up on your page. I decided that to give back, I was going to give away products for the whole month of July because my birthday is July 8th. And there will be contests every day. And that will be July of 2020. So I hope you get to join us because it's been a lot of fun. Sometimes we have questions. It's just very random.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my purpose too is to put a little bit of heart education out there and maybe some helpful hints kind of things.
Yeah, I saw the other day that you had 3 questions, and they dealt with the Adult Congenital Heart Association and the Children's Heart Foundation. So you're doing a great job of raising awareness of other organizations that are out there to help people with congenital heart disease.
Thank you, because that really is what I want to do. I just want people to be engaged and know. And even if you are a parent of a small child,
mm-hmm.
they're going to be older one day. So the information is good for anybody to think about or take note on.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think has enabled you to live such a long and happy life, Kim? What do you attribute your success to?
You know, the only thing I can think of is God's grace, probably because I have a chronic illness, maybe. I just have a drive to do as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I mean, 30 years ago, I could do a whole lot more than I can now, but I do what I can with what I have. Having positive people, having my parents always being a support, that is very key.
Hi, my name is Jamie Alcroft, and I just published my new book, The Ten Man Diaries. It's an amazing story of my sudden change of heart as I went through a heart and liver transplant. I can think of no better way to read The Ten Man Diaries than to cuddle up in your favorite Hearts Unite the Globe sweatshirt and your favorite hot beverage, of course, in your Hearts Unite the Globe mug, both of which are available at the Hug Podcast Network online store, or visit heartsunitetheglobe.org.
Tonight Forever by the Baby Blue Sound Collective.
I think what I love so much about this CD is that some of the songs were inspired by the patients.
Many listeners will understand many of the different songs and what they've been inspired by. Our new album will be available on iTunes, Amazon.com, Spotify.
I love the fact that the proceeds from this CD are actually going to help those with congenital heart defects.
Enjoy the music.
Home Tonight Forever.
Heart to Heart with Anna is a presentation of Hearts Unite the Globe and is part of the Hug Podcast Network. Hearts Unite the Globe is a non-profit organization devoted to providing resources to the congenital heart defect community to uplift, empower, and enrich the lives of our community members. If you would like access to free resources pertaining to the CHD community, please visit our website at www.congenitalheartdefects.com for information about CHD, the hospitals that treat children with CHD, summer camps for CHD survivors, and much, much more.
Kimberly, before the break, we were talking about celebrating 60 years as an adult with a complex CHD, but let's talk about your legacy now. First of all, in your bio, we talked about how you had written a book, and you just mentioned that again a few moments ago, but tell us about how writing that first book has affected your life.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea what I was doing at all. Didn't take any classes. And I think it worked for this story just because it was my life story. Mm-hmm. And the first section, of course, was my mom's story. Mm-hmm. But I wrote it. And when I sent it to a publisher, they sent it back and said, we would like to print this, but we need you to heighten the drama here, here, and here. Mm-hmm. And the parents and grandparents that are going to read it do not need more drama.
That's for sure.
Self-publish.
Because they wanted you to Hollywoodize it or make it more than what it was, that's what made you decide to self-publish instead of going with a traditional publisher?
Yes.
I had the same exact experience.
I wanted this to be what I wanted it to be, and I didn't want to embellish or anybody else putting something in.
Yeah, I felt like our stories were quite dramatic enough. Thank you very much.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yes. I have to say that from that book, as you were asking, I got speaking engagements at hospitals up and down the East Coast and some in the Midwest. And of course, as I got out there and spoke, more people found out about me. And parents would email me with questions. I had one lady that I will never forget. She was from California, and she had gotten my book by mistake. Mm-hmm. She wrote me and told me, thank you so much. It almost makes me cry because parents are so focused on taking care of the child that the grandparent gets left out. Mm-hmm. And they don't really understand what's going on. And so my book laid it out for her a little more so that she understood why there's no time for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And that just touched me very much. I was very appreciative of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like the book opened lines of communication for you that had not been opened before.
Yes.
Tell me what project you're working on now, Kimberly.
I'm kind of taking a little twist. Still doing my contest. I still volunteer for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. We were kind of counselors at a virtual camp last week, which
my
was
goodness.
put on by Children's Healthcare of Atlanta and the campgrounds where we usually go. And that was very fun. So I get to do all those kinds of things.
For people who are listening to this, and it's way past the year 2020, we are in a pandemic right now. Right now, the coronavirus is raging, and so we're having to be a little bit more creative, aren't we, Kimberly?
Yes. So we had the virtual camp. Kids got to watch videos on TV and actually interact with what they were. And then we had snack chat. So when the kids were eating snack, we hung out with them, told jokes, all that kind of stuff. But my main focus right now is writing a fiction novel. I think it's going to be good. And then I'm also mentally working on an update from my last book, just kind of a sequel. People ask me, we want to know what's going on. So, okay. So I'm working on that.
You have a lot of experience that is unique. Like you said, if you're only one of about 100 people who are your age living with a complex congenital heart defect, there are a lot of people who want to know, well, what's next?
Yeah.
There aren't a whole lot of studies. So tell us what advice you have for other aging adults with complex congenital heart disease.
First and foremost, put yourself out there among other families in any different way. There are many ways you can find on Facebook. You can find, sometimes meetings in the Atlanta area. Those people need your help because they may have a child just like you, and how comforting it is for them to know that you're an adult and you're doing fine.
Absolutely.
Yes. Don't ever be afraid to ask your doctor anything. Number one, they have confidentiality. So if you're in a situation that is extreme and you have to know what to do, your cardiologist is the great place to go. They'll tell you what to do and they'll help you handle whatever the situation is.
Yeah, it seems to me like a lot of us families living with complex congenital heart disease, the cardiologist is part of their family. It feels like an extension of our family, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I am excited for you, Kimberly. Happy 60th birthday to you, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. We've been talking about doing this for a while and have trouble getting it together. So thank you so much.
Well, it was a perfect time to do it. Congratulations on 60 years with a complex heart. You are a true inspiration, a true pioneer, and I hope you'll come back on the program. So maybe you could tell us about that fictional book. I'm just curious. Will one of the characters have a heart defect?
Possibly.
Okay. Well,
I have to work out the logistics. I have it in mind, but I'm not sure how it's going to work. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program today, Kimberly.
Well, thank you. And you take care.
I feel very lucky my son has you and so many of the other pioneers to thank for having the full, rich life that he has. He's only 25. He'll be 26 this year. And it's amazing to me what a quality life he has. And it's because of people like you who were not afraid to live their fullest life and to put themselves out there, like you said. So thank you again. Happy 60th birthday. That concludes this episode of Heart to Heart with Anna, my friends. Thanks for listening today. If you've enjoyed this episode, why don't you leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts or YouTube, anywhere where you're listening to the podcast. And remember, my friends, you are not alone.
Thank you again for joining us this week. We hope you have been inspired and empowered to become an advocate for the congenital heart defect community. Heart to Heart with Anna, with your host Anna Jaworski, can be heard every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Time.